Managing government finances. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The time for this debate has expired, so we call now private and local order of the day number 1.
Hutt City Council Graffiti Removal Bill, second reading.
Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the Hutt City Council Graffiti Removal Bill be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, I want to at the start thank the Local Government and Environment Select Committee for the hearing that they gave this bill and the suggestions that they have made for the House to adopt, with which, all of which I, as sponsor of the bill, concur. And I'll go to those at the end. I'm not going to breach standing orders, Mr. Speaker, by acknowledging the Mayor of Lower Hutt, who is in the gallery today, because if I did it would, and I won't, therefore, Mr. Speaker, but Sir Ray Wallace, when he was campaigning for the mayoralty and when elected mayor, declared war on graffiti in Lower Hutt and has had a coherent approach, a team of rapid action in private areas where it's visible, and where access is approved by the owners, in public areas, rapid response, often the first day that is reported, but also a coherent program of art for kids and other things in order to move some of the real talent onto positive work. The main aim of this bill is to empower the city to remove graffiti that is on private property but where the owner cannot be found or identified in order to give consent, or for that matter to decline. And I do want to make it clear that if owners don't want graffiti removed, then it will not be removed. But what this does is fill a gap in the law which was the cause of quite a number of eyesores in Lower Hutt and actually around the country as well, where there are effectively absentee owners, people who have semi-abandoned properties where they pay the rates maybe or very late, but they are completely out of contact. And some of these are Kiwis who have shifted offshore, but in New Zealand, more and more there are cases of overseas companies owning small commercial areas where maybe they haven't made a good investment, and as a result of that there's an inability to make contact with them. It's my view that having a lot of graffiti around, a lot of tagging in a community is a signal of a lack of social cohesion. It gives a perception of danger, and it does reduce property values for owners who are nearby. It has a detrimental effect on the image of a city and often therefore on its well-being. Now, while if people can be caught, the Summary Offences Act 1981, if people are caught in the act, there is some deterrence in there, but it doesn't give the ability to clean up graffiti on private property unless there can be good contact with the owner. Mr. Speaker, the Local Government and Environment Select Committee heard a range of submissions, not a large number, but a range of submissions. Most of those, I think, made useful suggestions and has recommended some changes to the bill. The first of those changes is to clarify the purpose statement, to state that the purpose is to allow the removal of private property graffiti that is visible from a public place. So it's something which, if it's inside, if it's around the back, that's not the role of the council. It's not wider, it's what visible from a public place. There's a definition of graffiti, and I want to thank Holly Walker for the work that she did in that area, a definition which essentially picks up the definition consistent with the Summary Offences Act 1981. Another amendment requires the council to state on the graffiti removal notice the power relied on, so that people know which section of the legislation is being used. and to require the person removing the graffiti to take a copy of that notice and also to have adequate identification with them when they're removing the graffiti. Now, on the vast majority of occasions, the way that this works in the Hutt is it is a contractor who is doing that work, and it's not seen as a problem for all of those staff to carry identification, because my understanding is that they do anyway. Probably the biggest change that the committee made was that in the bill as introduced, there was a protection from civil liability from civil proceedings arising out of actions conducted in good faith, even if there was not reasonable care. That has been removed, and the Select Committee decided that it was appropriate to rely on the general provisions of the law, but also acted on the briefings of the Council that it is their requirement on their contractors to carry public liability insurance. Now, that public liability insurance is already being carried, so there is not an additional cost as a result of this change, and what it does is put people who are implementing this new legislation on the same basis as other people who are doing graffiti removal, actually whether or not they're council employees or contractors, as is used in the Hutt. Mr Speaker, I'd like to sort of finish where I started, and that is to congratulate the Hutt City Mayor, Ray Wallace, on this initiative, to say that I'm proud to be the local member for Lower Hutt, and I want to thank the committee and the House for its good work on this bill.
Question is that the motion be agreed to.
Mr Speaker.
Nikki Wagner.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise to